Welcome to A Transformed Life, the podcast where we alchemize our ashes into art, transform our pain into power and peace. I'm Hope Rose, your hope dealer, inspirational guide, and storyteller in this podcast. Each week, we dive into inspirational stories of transcending our grief, how to navigate custody battles with peace, transform our trauma into triumph, and what seems like a mess into a magnificent masterpiece. Together, we'll foster transformation, resilience, and guide you in claiming personal responsibility for your story. Our stories offer hope, encouragement, and community support, guiding you toward better health and wellness. Join me as we discover actionable ways to leverage our struggles, find healing, and rise like a phoenix. Tune in to discover your power, your divinity, and learn how to embrace your story so that it can serve others on their transformational journey. It's been a few months since I have recorded a podcast. If you have listened to the first few episodes, you will see there is a new name. And I chose A Transformed Life because there's so much to talk about in regards to transformation. And I really wanted a clear message that aligns with where my vision has us going as a collective. And so in my decades of this work, I've always approached wellness, health, fitness, the general wellness world from a holistic point of view. And when I say holistic, yes, I do mean the natural protocols, but holistic in the sense that it's mind, body, spirit. We are plural. We're not singular. And so much of the personal development world, personal growth, running, whatever sector is under the umbrella of wellness, it's very singular. So given my background in ultra running and fitness, I have for years, so many runners run, I ran 10 miles. I'm going to eat Oreos and have a beer. They justify because I burned the calories. Buzzer sounds. That is not why we run. It might be why you run or why somebody else is choosing to do that, but that is not nourishing and taking care of our body. We are in separation from ourselves and doing a disservice to our human system when we justify those actions. And I will give a little caveat here too, or maybe a pin in this conversation. When we have to justify something, it's typically not an aligned choice. And what I have learned from my teacher is instead of getting into good or bad, it's either misaligned or aligned. And if something's not aligned, that is why you have to justify, I ran 10 miles, I can drink this. Your soul, your core knows that is not an aligned choice, and you're trying to override that system. And the more you override that system, things in your life are going to show up over a period of time. It could be physical manifestations. It could be in relationships. It could be in other situations. The more you don't listen to your soul, the more you override that, the bigger your problems will be. So back to A Transformed Life. That is also the new tagline for Hope Rose. And so I really hope that this title resonates with you. And I view transformation again as plural, mind, body, spirit. I actually just posted on Instagram today about the human system defined. Mind, body, spirit. And I will read to you what that is, because I think a lot of people, they might hear mind, body, spirit, but they haven't actually like digested, metabolized what that is. And so let's break that down a little bit. So our mind is the seat of thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and consciousness, shaping our reality and guiding our decisions. Body. The body is the physical vessel that experiences and interacts with the world, housing our senses, movement, and health. And then spirit. The spirit is the essence of who we are, encompassing our deeper sense of purpose, connection, and inner energy beyond the physical and mental realms. You can, if you're not following me on Instagram, it's Hope Rose Speaks. You can go over there and see the post on that. And so when our human system is not toned, aligned to mind, body, spirit, when one of these is off, we're going to lose our balance. So kind of, think of a tricycle. A tricycle has, 3 wheels. If one wheel is off, that bike is not going to go very far. It's going to wobble and not be aligned. And so when our mind, body, and spirit, our human system, is all aligned, then that's where we can make magic happen in our lives, in our relationships, in our businesses, in our thinking, wherever we desire freedom or growth or clarity. Come back to the human system. Where am I out of alignment? Am I, it's the basics. Am I nourishing my body? Am I eating whole organic foods as much as possible? Am I nourishing it with nourishing drinks? Am I, loading up on coffee and alcohol, sodas, or am I taking care of my body with proper hydration, electrolytes? I personally choose not to drink alcohol, and I personally choose not to drink coffee, with a little tidbit there. Years ago, decades ago, I decided I did not want to drink coffee because I never wanted to be that person who would be posting memes and such as, don't talk to me until I've had 3 cups of coffee. I didn't want to be addicted to a substance that if I didn't have it, I couldn't function. I didn't want to be tethered to something that would make me, quote unquote, function throughout the day. And so I chose years ago to not drink coffee. And, I'm in my mid 40s at this point, and I've had very few cups of coffee in my entire life. And so instead, in the morning, I have an adrenal drink. And if you want the recipe, let me know. I can post it in Instagram or Threads. Come join me over there. Or my email list. I can post it in there. And instead, this adrenal drink nourishes my adrenals. And so another little tidbit, fun fact for you. Our adrenals sit right above the kidneys. They are about the size of a walnut, and they are home to over 50 hormones. And I have been obsessed with adrenals for a very long time, years, a couple decades, because adrenal health is so important to the rest of our body, because they're home to our hormones. Hormones have a role in everything from weight to emotions. Those are the 2 big ones. And so if a person is experiencing, any kind of quote unquote mental health crisis, or they can't lose weight, their adrenals really need to be addressed. And I address them from a holistic point of view. There's specific herbs to help. And these adrenals are, they're part of the sympathetic nervous system. And so, anything from like, depression to anxiety to panic attacks to, um, any kind of issue like that, they're going to be affected. And so when we can calm our adrenals down through, proper quote unquote stress management, and we really can't manage stress. We can mitigate it, but it's kind of like managing a tiger. You can't really manage a tiger in the wild. And so to mitigate adrenal health is super important if you're going through any type of stressful situation, such as family court, or maybe you lost your business. At the time of this recording, there are significant floods in western North Carolina from Hurricane Helene, which I will touch on in a little bit as well. And so when our body experiences stress from all different types, whether it be psychological, physiological, emotional, physical, relational, situational, environmental, our body is going to respond. And so how are you taking care of your body? This is just, kind of a question to you. Take inventory. Are you really nourishing your body? And especially if you're going through a stressful time, it's even more imperative that we eat and drink to nourish us, because our nutrients, when we're stressed, stress pulls it out and it really uses up, like magnesium, for example. As I'm recording this, I am soaking my feet in magnesium. And they are not a sponsor of this podcast. I just love them so much because this magnesium has changed my life. So this is an impromptu plug for living the good life naturally. It's liquid magnesium. You can put it in your bath, or I do a foot soak because my place does not have a bathtub. So I do a foot soak every night. This is great for kids. And magnesium is best absorbed through the feet transdermally. So that's why this magnesium is just wonderful. And so when we're under, intense periods of stress, our body is going to deplete nutrients and minerals more rapidly than when we are not in times of stress. Amazing how that is. In terms of mind care, it's all about consciousness. That is where, consciousness is. And are you aware of the choices you're making? And before you can be aware of the choices you're making, you have to become aware. So without awareness, there is no choice. And so really ask yourself, let me become aware of these patterns. And as you start to do this practice of just becoming aware of how you are showing up minute by minute, hour to hour in life, how you react or how you respond, what caught you off guard, what triggered you, what you're anticipating that you might be fearful, where you are experiencing shame or fear or guilt. It all starts with awareness. And so if you can become aware, when you become aware, then you have a choice to make. And that puts you in an empowered state. I'm going to touch quickly on boundaries, because this came up in a conversation I had earlier. I encouraged, as a friend, to stick to her boundaries, and she replied that this individual doesn't accept her boundaries. And my response, well, it's not up to her if she accepts them or not. It's up to you to enforce them. And if somebody is violating your boundaries that you have laid out, that you have explained, then you need to enforce those boundaries. I will not be spoken to like that. I'm going to remove myself from this situation. And until you do that, people will walk all over you. And so some of you, if you're listening to this, you may know my story. I was in an extremely abusive relationship. And that is one of the things I did many years ago. This was almost over 6 years ago. I had a 4-month-old at the time, and my ex was berating me just when he was following me around the house, just verbally abusing me, physically assaulting me with my baby in my arms. And I just told him, I'm going to remove me and my baby. We're going to go take a walk. This was, the weather was nice, so I could do that. And I'm going to come back and let's see if you can talk appropriately, responsibly to me. And he could not. But that is one thing that I have experienced, and I know how difficult it can be to enforce boundaries if you've grown up in a family dynamic where there was no boundaries, if there was enmeshment, if boundaries were used against you. And, there's a difference between boundaries and putting walls up. And so that's a whole nother podcast title. But back to the mind, back to the human system defined, really start to become aware of your choices. Start to become aware of how you're just showing up in life. Maybe, write down in a note section on your phone or a journal of like, oh, this triggered me. Let me write this down. And these are all data points so that you can unravel them, disentangle them, and then realign them to get what you want. And so the last thing in a human system defined is spirit. And this is certainly, spirit is also a level of consciousness as well, but it's our higher self. It's like soul. So I look at this as soul care. Where are you caring for your soul? It's the essence of who you are. And so many of us, myself included, before I kind of started this particular last journey I've been on in very deep personal transformational work, what had been running the show was my inner little girls, the inner aspects, inner parts, inner child work. And that is these patterns, our pattern, our human system, our internal operating system, iOS, is pretty much set in stone by the age of 6. So if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever age you are, that iOS system has been running for a very long time. And so the essence of who you are, you may not know today. It has taken me a while to kind of unearth some of my belief systems. And so with your soul care, with your spirit, you begin to remove all of that gunk and those layers of shame, of fear, of feelings of I'm not worthy, I'm undeserving, they're better than me, like whatever comes up for you. And it's connecting with source, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And that is also tied into spirituality, energetics, frequency, and it's beyond the physical and mental realms. Another word would be quantum, like quantum physics. It's kind of the sciencey part of things, which I personally love. And you can make so many magnificent changes to your life, pivots, when you start doing this work and really tap into the essence of who you are. And one way you can do that is by writing a letter to an inner aspect of you that you want to get to know. And when you kind of write it from a higher point of view, like your higher self, it is so beneficial. And that is where, a lot of healing can come. And so, how are you taking care of your soul? I would also say this ties in a little bit with the mind too, but how is your self-talk? And self-talk is a catch-all term. It's not like I'm such a bad person, but when you are in a shame spiral or cycle, that is not loving yourself. It's separate from yourself. And so part of soul care is, again, going back to being aware of the choice you're making to choose to, you can choose shame if you are aware of it, or you can choose to have a different experience. You can say, oh, that is amazing. Because you want to celebrate that you have noticed that you're going down the shame path and you want to back up, go a different path. Like, I'm going to choose a path of like, I feel hurt by this situation. I feel disappointed, and I'm going to make a different choice. So you want to celebrate the awareness, make a different choice. And this is like, it's really simple work, but it's very difficult because your brain has been thinking one way for many decades. So just preface this. And so it takes a lot of repetition, a lot of bats to really, move that energy in a different direction of where you really want to go. I don't think you want to go down the path of shame anymore, right? So that is kind of the human system defined of how my perspective, methodology, and I hope it resonated and got your wheels turning. Before I close out this podcast, the other thing I wanted to touch about, like I said earlier, is this whole thing with the Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina. I have very strong opinions on what has happened there. And it's not a coincidence that this has happened almost like a month out from the elections. And what I want to say about this is that the government is not coming to save you. The government is not our savior. Just look at how many boots are on the ground where it's friends and communities and towns and people helping each other. And a lot of times these events, shall we call them, are created by the government. Let's take COVID, for example. They create the problem and then they create the quote unquote solution. We're going to, FEMA's going to swoop in and give you a whopping $750. Oh, and use the phone and get on the internet to apply. Well, they don't even have phone service or internet service to even do those two things. And so part of this, I think, is continuing to wake up the collective. And one of my passions is sovereignty. And I'm coming out with Sovereign School. It's a program going to be launched very soon. And it's all about reclaiming autonomy for your life, for your family, for your soul. Reclaim your soul. And so many have sold their soul to an idea, straight out to the government, to the system as a whole. Let's just use example of like, when I go to college, I'm going to have a good paying job. I'm going to have the white picket fence in the house, 2.5 kids, 1 dog, maybe a cat if we're not allergic to it. We're going to have 2 nice cars. We can take 2 weeks of vacation a year. There's some sick days. And we're going to live this dream. And what people are realizing is that none of that is true. They are waking up extremely miserable, extremely in debt. Divorce rate is through the roof. Family court is a $60 billion industry. Children are being trafficked right and left. Women are being killed by their former or current male partners. 3.4 women a day are killed. And so we have a crisis on our hands. And the crisis is that our soul is in crisis on a global collective level. And it is time we come back to our soul. of saying, no, this is my body. This is my soul. It is not up for sale. This is a non-negotiable. I teach my children. I make my money. I'm not exchanging my soul for an empty promise. If I go K through 12 and go 4 years for college education and I have the student loans and then I get the job, and you know what, people are getting these jobs, they can't even find a job with the degree they have, so they go to their master's. They spend another 2 years and even more in debt to try to get the job that they couldn't get with the 4-year degree. You don't need a degree to excel and have happiness in life. And so when you exchange your soul for a piece of paper, for an idea or a construct that if I do this, then X will happen, i.e. the high-paying job, the gorgeous family, the pretty social media curated account, you're still empty inside. People are still empty and dying inside. Their soul has atrophied. And so these events, while tragic in and of themselves, I really hope it starts to wake more of humanity up. And I'm here to assist in soul recovery. Come back to your soul, come back to the essence of who you are, your autonomy for your family, for yourself, for your romantic partnership, for your friendships, for your business, your livelihood. And there is a way that is aligned for your soul to thrive in this world without exchanging it for what the government is trying to persuade you to. So I know I threw a lot at you in this podcast. Maybe go back and listen to it again, take some notes. At the conclusion of this, I also want to let you know I'm super excited about something. Drum roll. November 11th through 15th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, there is going to be a live stream. And throughout those 5 evenings, there's going to be at least 3 amazing speakers along with myself in those evenings. Mainly hosted on Instagram. I am looking into other live stream platforms. I may even do it from the platform I'm recording this on now, so that way YouTube can see it. But it's going to be an amazing week called A Transformed Life. And each night's going to have a different topic, all related to the theme of transformation. And so please mark your calendars. If you have any questions about it, send me an email, send me a direct message. I will get back to you. And invite a friend to listen to this podcast. Share it on social media. And if you are so inclined, please leave me a 5-star review so that way this message can get out to as many other souls as possible. I have a huge vision on my soul, on my heart, and you can help me make that happen. And that's by leaving a 5-star review, sharing it on social, tagging me. And that means the world. I don't get sponsorships for this program. So that is one way you can support me. It's totally free for you to give a 5-star review, to leave a comment. I believe Spotify, you can leave, positive comments, aligned comments, encouraging comments on there. And that would mean the world to me. So I will wrap it up for now, and I will see you next week. Have a beautiful week. Thank you so much for listening to A Transformed Life podcast. If you got something out of today's episode, please take a screenshot and share it on social media with your takeaway. And don't forget to tag us at Hope Rose Speaks. Have a beautiful day.